welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers on that I've never met before. Today we have...
I'm Kent Knapp from Milwaukee Blacksmith. How are you?
And we are here in Milwaukee Blacksmith itself, which is really cool. I mean, it's a massive facility. It's huge.
Well, the whole place is in ours. We have this little corner. This huge building, this was Nordberg back in the day, and so we just rented this little corner of it. So what you see as you look over the walls is massive, and we're pretty happy with the space we have. And of course, we're sitting in the office right now, which is cluttered, and it's got a lot of
ball.
Yeah, we got the disco ball. A lot of my memorabilia from my days.
Yeah.
But the shop floor, that's where we spend most of the time. And this shop is the best shop we've ever had. We've got 40-foot ceilings and a gantry crane and full walls of windows. We've got so much natural light and electricity and gas for days. So we're pretty happy here.
Yeah, so you were talking about your first shop. How different was that? Like the very first one when you started?
My first shop was on 12th and Pierce. I think it cost me $350 a month.
That's a good deal.
It was what we would refer to as an S-hole.
Yeah.
So there was 3 lights, 1 window, no heat, and no plumbing.
No heat?
Yeah, so the only heat came from the forge. And we were there, and back then it was just me.
Yeah.
I spent 5 years there, and I did some of my better work there. I produced the gate for the Miller Mansion, which was kind of become my calling card. It's a classic piece of ironwork on the east side, and that it was my first big job, and I wound up getting a historic preservation award for that. So we kind of parlayed that into a little more business,
So what got you into doing this from the beginning? Because is there a lot of blacksmiths out there?
There's more blacksmiths out there than you know of.
Yeah.
We're pretty recluse, we like to keep to ourselves. But I came into blacksmithing through blues music. When you walked in today, you heard Freddie King was blaring or whatever was going on. I'm a musician first and foremost. I've been playing music since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But when I was a teenager, I fell in love with Chicago blues, and most of the guys my age, they were playing Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses, So I started hanging out with an older group of guys that were blues musicians. I was 18, 19. They were 30s, 40s, 50s, some of them into their 60s. And it turned out one of the guys was a blacksmith. And he invited me out to his shop, kind of took me under his wing as a musician first, and then invited me out to his shop. And I walked in, and it was that was it. I saw what these guys were doing, and I immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah. To me, it seems like it's is it a steep learning curve? It seems very hard to do.
Well, it's funny. We teach a lot of classes here. We have what we call the School of Iron at Milwaukee Blacksmith, and we do classes every Saturday afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
Some more in-depth classes and some classes that just kind of stick on the surface so you can just kind of get your feet wet.
Yeah.
And it's always funny. Some people just get it.
Yeah.
And some people don't get it at all, Yeah. So it's kind of fun to coach them along. But, I have to admit, I had an 8-year apprenticeship, and I don't think I was good until my 10th year.
Okay. What put you over the peak, you think? What made you...
Well, I had 2 different teachers, and my secondary teacher, Leon, was a great help to me in the beginning of my business.
Yeah.
If I couldn't figure something out, I'd look to Leon.
Okay.
And then one day Leon passed.
Okay.
And so at that point, I remember it was like kind of a turning point where I was like, oh, well, you're screwed now, buddy.
Yeah.
You got to figure it all out. And so after Leon was gone, I just had to figure it out myself. And I think sometimes when you're kind of thrown into the proverbial deep end, that's when you really get good at something.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it for you that clicked? What was it about blacksmithing in general that made you fall in love with it so quickly?
That's a great question. I think when I first walked into the shop, and I learned in the Cedar Creek Forge in Cedarburg, so a lot of people know it as the Anvil Restaurant now.
Okay.
So that was actually a blacksmith shop. And I walked in there and I saw how these guys were taking this immovable. I mean, we all think of iron and steel as rigid and immovable.
Right, yeah.
And they were making it flow so graceful, and it was so beautiful that I just had to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So I was just bitten by the bug. I don't even know what did it. It just happened.
Yeah. And do you think, so how long have you played music for? How long were you doing that? I mean, you're still playing now, but
right. I still play now. We do the Blues Jam over at Puddler's Hall every other week. WMSC sponsors us.
Oh yeah.
We're there tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Tomorrow is Big Al's birthday party, so we're gonna have a Big Al jam. You guys got to hear Big Al. But I mean, I've been playing music since I was a little kid. I played saxophone all throughout high school or all throughout grade school and high school, and I was terrible. I never got good.
Okay.
And then I discovered the bass guitar sometime in my teens. I remember a friend of mine had tickets to a concert and he brought me along and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I want to be a rock star, right?
Yeah.
So I picked up the bass and I just, I started learning. I took some lessons and I actually worked at a couple different music stores.
Okay.
So I was always kind of in that world, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember I took my first, I was at the music store and there was a guitar teacher and I was like, dude, you know, I'm going to take a lesson. Teach me how to play bass.
Yeah.
And I took a lesson and I'll never forget. He goes, you don't need me. You got to figure it out. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I kind of honed in on the type of music that I really loved, which was when blues turned into rock and roll.
Okay.
Imagine Freddie King towards the Cream, or you know, like Muddy Waters and Led Zeppelin. Like that was really what blues begat rock and roll, and that was what really turned me on at that time. And then I started digging backwards, and I really fell in love with the post-war Chicago blues scene, the Little Walter and the Muddy Waters and that kind of stuff. And so I've been playing here in Milwaukee since I was 19 years old.
Wow.
We used to be the house band over at the Up and Under, and we got to open for a lot of great acts like Junior Wells and Luther Allison and so many people I just can't even remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
And then I actually picked up when I was 23, my wife Shannon and I, we had 2 kids, and I got this wild hair and decided to move to New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I moved to New Orleans and kind of dove into the deep end of that and played music with unbelievable musicians. A lot of names I can mention that most people around here wouldn't recognize, but I got to play with guys like Earl King and Bo Diddley and Cyril Neville. And I mean, like, you couldn't spit in New Orleans and not hit royalty.
Yeah.
And so after almost a decade in New Orleans of primarily playing music, and I was a sound engineer as well, I worked with a lot of great people as the guy behind the console. You know, from Fats Domino to Kansas to Johnny Winter, or Edgar Winter rather. So it was a surreal life living in New Orleans, and then I came back to Milwaukee kind of on a fluke and fell right back into the same old scene, playing blues and blacksmithing.
Yeah.
And then I had, like I said, 2 teachers. One of them passed and one of them left the country, so I was kind of left holding the bag.
Yeah.
And I bought their tools and opened this shop, which, I mean, you just walk through, there's a lot of stuff. 14 years ago, I had about 1/50th the amount of tools that we have now.
Oh, really?
We've really grown the shop. You hear the hammering in the background right now. That's my youngest son, Ozzy. He's still working for the day. He's finishing up a job, but we are a family-run business. So my wife, Shannon, and I, we run the business, and Zoe, when she comes back, she'll step back into the fold, and Bertie and Ozzy are here all the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, we got a bunch of apprentices. We're just trying to keep the craft alive.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of places you can go and do this, which is why we started the School of Iron, so that people could come and kind of just get their feet wet.
Right. Yeah. And what do you think, I guess, throwing like your kids as well into this, what do you think like blacksmithing like teaches you innately? Is there like certain things like patience and things like that you need to...
Well, of course, there's the things that we could touch upon, like patience, because it takes a lot of patience. When you're first trying to figure out how to do something, you're going to make mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
And the best knowledge comes from making mistakes.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know how to do something until you know how to do it wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of times lessons that I've learned a decade, 2 decades ago, I'll step back and I'll watch the kids going through that same process, and I can't step in.
Yeah.
You know, like I got to just
let them do it.
I got to let them do it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mom's there in the shop. She's like, why don't you just show them how to do it? I'm like, because they got to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to figure it out. I spent the best decade of my life. I'm kind of a loner. I'm fourth child of 4 children.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time as a kid alone.
Yeah.
And so some of the best times of my life was the decade that I spent alone in my shop learning how to really be a blacksmith and get good at. And I did not. And we've got this great shop now, and I love this shop. I'm so happy to work here every day, to teach here. But our first shop was a cave, man. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. And I was still so happy to go there just to have this opportunity to really dig my heels into the craft, you know?
Yeah. What were some of the first things that you were making, like when you started out?
I remember my very first job was some balconies at the Summerfield Courts on Farwell, which is just north of Shank Hall.
Oh, that's where I live right now. I live on Brady and Farwell.
Okay, so Summerfield Courts is kind of a U-shaped apartment building.
Yeah.
And the original ironwork there was made by the master blacksmith of Milwaukee, a guy by the name of Cyril Kalnick.
Okay.
And he was the guy from about 1894 till his death in 1957, 58. Any really great old ironwork you see around Milwaukee, City Hall, Pabst Theater, Eline Mansion, Villa Terrace, they've got an exhibit of his works at Villa Terrace. I highly recommend that everybody goes and see it because this guy was unbelievable. So my very first job, which was a job passed on to me by my teacher because he was on a plane. He was leaving the country. He's like, well, I started this contract and you can do it. Don't worry about it. I'm like,
okay. I guess I have to now.
So I did it. I mean, I figured it out, and it's not a very ornate pattern, but what was cool about it was that we kind of simplified the design of the original Kalnick ironwork.
Okay.
And I had found out later that my wife had actually lived in that apartment when she was a child. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. How did the blacksmithing used to work? Was there like a blacksmith per city, or was there more? Or like, did Milwaukee have more than one?
Oh, there was dozens, if not hundreds. So in the research that I've done, I live in Bayview. We're in Bayview. Milwaukee Blacksmith is in Bayview. We're here at the old Nordberg plant, which is Oklahoma and Chase. By the way, historic building alone, the building that was added onto Nordberg that makes Oklahoma take the jog.
Yeah.
This was added in 1942 specifically to build torpedoes for the war effort.
Really?
So we fly the Navy flag because this was, and at the time you had all of the big factories in Milwaukee were working towards the war effort. You know, P&H was making tanks.
Yeah.
Vilter was making shell casings. They were making torpedoes here. And what was so cool about it was, most of the men were off to war. So we're talking about this was a female-led workforce.
Yeah.
And it was really I like to think the very beginning of feminism, that it was World War II and all the men were off fighting. So the women stepped up and they showed that they're very strong and could do it all the same stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a specific ironwork around Milwaukee that is your favorite that you still love so much? Like, doesn't have to be yours specifically, but...
Well, I mentioned Villa Terrace, which is a museum on the east side, and they have a Cyril Kalnick exhibit there. And at Villa Terrace, they have on exhibition Cyril Kalnick's masterpiece, which was the piece of ironwork that he did to garner the master status.
Yeah.
So it's this beautiful big window grill that's like 3 foot by 4 foot, and in the center of it is the bust of Vulcan, who was the god of blacksmithing. So it's like this horned, toothed, winged creature that's crazy, and I could pull out a picture, but I don't want to walk away right now. But it's easily the best piece of ironwork I've ever seen in my life, and it lives right here in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And the kicker of it, like I look at this piece, and so the centerpiece is the best, but every little nook and cranny, everything you look at it, even the frame, is amazing. And the kicker of it is that Cyril Kalnick produced this piece of ironwork when he was 22 years old.
Wow.
So that's why I push, Ozzy's out there. My son Ozzy is 19.
Yeah.
He's out there doing the level of work that I did when I started this business.
Yeah.
Because he started blacksmithing when he was 8.
Wow.
He and his brother Bertie were 8 and 9 when they started with me at the shop.
Wow.
And they went through Waldorf education to grade 8.
Yeah.
And then their high school years were here with me at the School of Iron, and they learned how to be blacksmiths. And now this kid, he's 19 years old, and he's out there crushing it.
Yeah.
He's doing great work.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like, is it just cool for you to see, like, your legacy kind of, like, carrying on, too? Like, and...
You know, some days you just kind of step back and look at it, and you get a little, you know...
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine being proud of your students, period, but being proud of your students when they're your children.
Yeah.
And it has literally been their life.
Yeah.
Which it has. And I mean, you know, we had this silly TV show on the History Channel.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a fluke of nature. It came about because, as far as I know, we were the only full family of blacksmiths at the time. It was me and Shannon, my wife, and Zoe, my daughter, and my sons, Miles, Bertie, and Ozzy. And we were all just in the shop doing what we do, you know?
Yeah.
And so the History Channel caught wind of it, and they made a TV show out of it, although they didn't very accurately depict who we were.
Yeah.
I would have done it a little differently, but I'm not complaining. It's been great for business. Not only did the show air around the U.S. with really good ratings. I mean, we had 1 million viewers plus for every show. But then in the subsequent years, which is 2 years now, it's been just kind of like oddly gyrating around the earth.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we get new people following us from Australia, and it's like, well, I guess the show's playing in Australia. You know? Yeah. We get emails from people, and I have a lot of blacksmith friends in the UK, and they're like, dude, we want to watch the show. When's it coming out? I'm like, I don't know. It's been out here for like a year and a half. Yeah. Finally, it came out in the UK, and so we're getting all these crazy likes from the UK and comments. And
that's cool.
You know, 99% of it is all positive. People love the message we put out. It's all about family. It's all about work ethic. But there's always that one guy.
There always is.
You know, and I think that was probably the most interesting part of this whole ride was that one guy.
Yeah.
You know? But you just ignore him and you move on, right?
Yeah, exactly. How did they approach you? They just like literally like emailed you or called you or something, and were like, "Hey, we're interested in featuring you in a show."
To make a long story short, which means it's really going to be long. So years and years and years ago, Ozzy, you saw him when you walked in. He's a big guy. You wouldn't even think that's my baby boy.
Yeah.
When Ozzy was 10, 11, 12, we did this article in the Bayview Compass, which is our little local rag here in our neighborhood. And it had myself and Shannon and the 3 boys. Oh, and so this is how we dated. Shannon was fully pregnant with Dharma, who's now 6. So this would have been 6, 7 years ago. And so people saw this image, and they're like they just saw this kind of wholesome throwback to American family business, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And everybody's like, dude, you should do a reality show. And I was like, no. All right. So finally I was like, all right. So we had filmed a pilot with a production company out of LA, and I really loved the producer, the director. He was like, we were just on the same wavelength, you know? And they had a year to sell it. And he called me up on the 365th day, and he's like, dude, sorry.
Oh, they
didn't sell it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Because we kind of thought, you know, we thought it was really going to help. It was going to be our next big step, you know.
Yeah.
And it did become our next big step, but totally in a different way than we ever expected, you know. So the funny thing was, the next day, the 366th day, I get a phone call from the History Channel.
Oh.
Hey, we saw your pilot. We really liked it. We'd like to buy a season, not a pilot. Not, you know, like they wanted to buy, and I was like, oh, okay, giddy up.
Yeah.
And so we had all these talks about like, well, we have kind of this vision, you know, we have this vision of how we want. Oh yeah. So of course they just kind of, you know, like the Play-Doh Fun Factory, they put our square peg through their round hole, and it kind of cut off some of the fat, which was some of the best stuff. But like I said, I still feel like it was, I don't think we were portrayed negatively. There was a little bit of focus on the drama, which, and I told him, I'm like, look, this is a dad and his 4 kids. Dude, the drama's there. Don't force it. Just let it be. But they still kind of forced it a little bit. They have a theorem for how it's done. But you know, it was good for business, and now we have people all around the world that know who we are,
Right,
and like people know who Ozzy is.
Yeah.
Here's this 19-year-old blacksmith, and we had a couple from Honduras here a couple weeks ago, and she was in love with Ozzy. All right, dude.
All right.
That's the strange world we live in today.
Right. Yeah. Because what was that like? Was it like long days, or did it literally just come in here and film stuff?
Well, so we filmed 10 episodes, and each episode was a pretty big build.
Yeah.
Normally, it would be like a 4 to 6 week build for us. They had us doing it in a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so myself and the kids, we were working about 100 hours a week.
Jeez.
For 4 months.
Yeah.
And then we had a group of guys, my friends and apprentices and people who took my class. We refer to them as the MBA, the Milwaukee Blacksmith Army. These are guys that have been around. They got my back, right?
Yeah.
And so these guys were getting paid by the History Channel to come in. We would work 7, 8. We would film and work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
And then these guys would come in at 7 p. and work all the way through the night.
Wow.
Just to get these crazy big builds done. And I'm so grateful for these guys.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't have done it without them. But I always tell people, we filmed 10 episodes in 4 months, and we did a year's worth of work in 4 months.
Wow.
So 100 hours a week. We were all like, I'm the old one, right? The kids were all like, they're whippersnappers, but I'm 46 years old. I was 44 at the time, and that much amount of work and the stress.
Yeah.
And just like I was doing 6 things at once while we were building this build. We were thinking 3 builds ahead.
Yeah.
And planning the next episodes. And I had to deal with the production crew. And luckily, we had a couple of really great directors, Danny Jordan and Eric Lehman. These are guys that have been around reality shows for forever, and they just kind of pushed us in the right direction.
Yeah. What was the coolest or your favorite piece that came out of that show, like that you guys built?
Well, the finale episode, the premise of the finale is that I get called into City Hall.
Okay.
And they're like, we want you to do something for the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's literally Mayor Barrett and a couple of the top aldermen, Bauman and Kovac, and I can't remember who was all there, but great guys in City Hall, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Milwaukee, and we got good people. So they're like, hey, we brought you in to, a little something for the city.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did a 16-foot tall beer tapper.
Oh, my God.
Which is at the entrance to Pabst Brewery.
Oh, okay.
Which is just next to the Fiserv Forum now, the new Bucks Arena. So it was cool because we built it before the Forum had even begun being built. Oh. So we looked out, and I actually aimed the beer tapper at City Hall. But it was cool because kind of the culmination of these 10 episodes and the whole show was that we were being recognized by the city that we loved, and the mayor came out, and we got to present it to the mayor, and so that's my favorite piece.
What? Yeah, that's really cool. Like, so we talked about you playing music. What do you think? Are there transfer skills there that go from playing like jazz to blacksmithing? Is there any overlap in
Absolutely.
any way?
Music, I play blues, and so there's a real kind of rhythmic, and there's so many BPM, so many beats per minute that seem to kind of coincide with hammering.
Yeah.
Like a lot of blues songs are like in that same realm. So for me, blues and blacksmithing, they've always gone together. I mean, partially because of the history of where I learned and how the two worlds came together for me. But there's that rhythm, and I try to explain, like I said, we teach classes here every Saturday, and you see a lot of people that want to go plink, 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 plink.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain to them that it's all about creating this machine, this rhythm.
Yeah.
Like I keep hammering, and I work the piece inside of the machine that I'm creating. Yeah. And so I never stop, because when I stop, I lose momentum. Yeah. And I lose the heat in my piece. So there's, as a bass player and a singer, but part of the rhythm section, my job is to keep this going, Yeah. And so I think a lot of that translates, from music to any kind of craft. It's a tactile thing. When you're working with your hands, you have to kind of just realize how you're affecting the material you're working with, and how do you need to change that to get your desired outcome, you know?
Yeah, I'm always so, it's just insane to me, like how you even curve stuff. And like, I just like, I don't understand how that even works. You know, like how you can curve a piece of metal and like do this ornate things in blacksmithing. It's amazing to me.
Right. Well, it just kind of comes second nature after you do it for so long. You work with the material and you understand the medium and you know how to push it in the direction that you want to push it. And I by no means am a master. I consider myself a journeyman. I'm still learning so much about this media that I work with, but I love it because there's so many different things you can do with it. Like you can work towards the old school and you can do some of the beautiful old ironwork from 200-300 years ago, or you can make stuff that's completely brand new. And so kind of my new passion in ironwork is creating ironwork that is of the likes that you've never seen before.
Okay.
You know, we've all seen the scrolls and we've seen the leaves and all the traditional stuff. And I spent well over a decade really sinking my teeth into that. And now I just finished a piece today that's going to be at the WMSE art auction.
Okay.
They do a big thing, and I'm terrible with names, but we always call it the MSE art thing. So it's at the Pritzloff, and so they hand out 300 12 by 12 boards.
Okay.
And so you can do whatever you want with the board. If you're a painter, if you're a knitter, if you're a sewer, whatever your medium is, you can make something out of this 12 by 12. And so they gave us 2. And so I challenged my wife and we each took one, right?
Yeah.
And so mine's finished. Hers isn't. But hers is probably going to be way better. But it was just kind of fun. Like it was the piece that I did doesn't really look like any ordinary ironwork that you would expect to see.
Okay.
It's just, I've been trying to push the medium in different directions. Yeah. One of my favorite blacksmiths living in the world, is a guy by the name of Albert Paley. And Paley he's been around since before I was born. And he was a contemporary of my teachers. So they were like, kind of in the same school. Yeah. But Paley, when people were doing scroll work and all the traditional like Victorian, what you expect to see, he was making really bizarre stuff already in the early 70s.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, he's got this beautiful gate in the Renwick Gallery on the mall in DC. I think that they put in like 82 or 84, but it just doesn't look like you'd expect ironwork to look. It looks, like kind of if you took your traditional ironwork and married it to Geiger. Like the Alien series, just bizarre. I love the Art Nouveau. I love the stuff that just doesn't quite look what you'd expect. Yeah. So that's kind of where I've been focusing my efforts lately is just trying to push the medium to something a little different. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple of guys out there, a couple of guys and gals that are really doing. There's a guy, Peter Brass-Phoenix, out of Canada, who every single piece he puts out, you look at it, you're just like, oh, damn, dude. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. And so, and a couple guys, there's a guy, Fred Christ, who does a lot of work with basically squishing materials in hydraulic press. And he just makes these really kind of outlandish shapes that you would have never really seen 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Yeah. So that's the stuff that I love to do now. And of course, I make sure that the shop keeps running. We're still doing gates and fences and all that stuff. But my passion is art. And ironwork that doesn't look like ironwork.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you too. Like, so what has been your proudest moment, like in blacksmithing, just generally? What do you think?
Well, it's a tough call, man. I mean, there's a lot. I remember receiving the Historic Preservation Award at City Hall from the mayor. Yeah. Along with the other craftsmen that were involved, and that was pretty cool. Received a mayoral design award for some work I did on an old building down on 27th and Wells. I mean, the high points. Yeah, life's a roller coaster, right? Yeah, and of course, when we did the TV show and when our premiere episode came out, and we had this huge party at the Ale House, and there was like 1,500, 2,000 people that all came to see our show and like share. Yeah. In this experience with us, that was, of course, a high point, Yeah. But, recently my high points are having Ozzy and Birdie on the floor and watching them make stuff that they're 19 and 20. They're making stuff I was making when I was 35.
Yeah.
And they're doing it, and it's a viable income for them. It's real, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so it's really cool to watch these guys. And Zoe, my daughter, my eldest daughter, I have little ones as well.
Okay.
But she takes the craft into a completely different direction. What's fun is to watch, and Miles too, my eldest son, like I taught them metalwork.
Yeah.
And they all kind of take it in their own tangent. You know, they're all doing something a little different. And so it's fun to watch. And actually, I've been watching, my wife, Shannon, was working on her piece for the MSE art thing. Yeah. And it's really cool. And I think I might have to go bid on it. Did she
start at the same point as you did?
To be fair, I think I had an idea. So Saturdays, I teach classes.
Yeah.
That's my Saturday is fully booked all the time. I'm here noon to 4 for 101 and 5 to 7 for the couples class, which is a little more simplistic for people that are really, you know, they're afraid they can't quite handle it.
Yeah.
But my point is Saturday night after class, that's my time.
Okay.
Like there's nobody else here.
Yeah.
It used to be that the shop was my realm. It was my little
oasis.
World.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I brought the kids and the whole family, and I was like, oh, what was I thinking?
They're all here now.
No, they're all here. So Saturday night, that's my time. So I actually, not this past, but a week ago Saturday, I just had this kind of weird idea.
Yeah.
I've got this new to me. It's actually probably 60 years old. Hydraulic, 120-ton hydraulic press. So you can really manipulate metal.
Okay.
Hard.
Yeah.
Like anything that I would do like this, it would take me 3 hours to do what the press does in 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So I've been trying to just dream up different things of what I could do with this new tool and just kind of come up with different stuff. And so I started my piece a week and a half ago, and I kind of screwed it up. Like it didn't really, it was late. It was Saturday night. It was late. You know, there might have been a little bit of whiskey involved. But so it didn't really happen so I could just I throw stuff on the side.
Yeah.
You know, you got some things they just need to rest for a minute. So I threw it on the side, and then 8 days later, we were here, and I was like, Shannon's like, dude, MSE art thing's coming up. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, what do you got? I was like, you got something? She's like, I got something. She's like, you got something? I was like, oh, I do. I do. What's over there? So I kind of cobbled it back together. And so that was the first layer, and I came up and I fixed it and I made it how I wanted. And then I wound up adding a second layer to it. And then I wound up, I just happened to have this gilding paste. This awesome, so back in the day when they would gold leaf something. Okay. You know, if you see ironwork and it's got gold pieces. Yeah. It was a really terribly laborious situation of creating this gold leaf. Well, this stuff is basically like toothpaste that you rub on the metal. Oh, okay. So I created this other piece that I laid on top of it, and then I gold leafed it. And of course, the criteria for the MSE art thing, I think you guys should just start calling it that. Is that they give you this 12 by 12 board. Yeah. And so this is your board. You do with it as you please. I'm like, well, now I got this, and I got this, and I don't wood. Yeah. Like if wood looks at me, it breaks in half. Yeah. So I mounted the thing to the wood, and then I'm like, well, the wood looks too clean and too nice. So I kind of took a grinder to it and a file, and I kind of gave it some dimension. Then we did what we call the Milwaukee touch. Anytime we have a new hammer, and it's got like this blonde handle and it doesn't look right, we take a torch to it. And then it looks old. Yeah. We call that the Milwaukee touch. So I took this board, and I took a torch, and I just kind of like burned it. Yeah. So that it looked a little different. Anyways, it's done, and hopefully it'll get a couple, $3-4. Yeah. I like to raise money for WMSE. You know, I've been a musician in Milwaukee for so many years it hurts, but I remember going down to see TC Tom Crawford at MSE when they were in the old building, like in the the early 90s, the late 80s,
Yeah.
and going to play on air and promoting our show. We were the house band at the Up, so we would always go down there and promote the show.
Yeah.
So I'm always happy to support WMSE in any way that I can, because they're good for us and we're good for them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Did your wife start blacksmithing at like a similar time as you did, or did she come in way later?
No. My wife started raising babies at the time I was black. So I started blacksmithing at 19.
Okay.
Which is right around the time that I knocked up my wife. So we had our first baby at 20.
Okay.
So I was Shannon, my wife. She raised the first 4 kids, and from Milwaukee to New Orleans and back, she spent that first 35 years, or 15 years, up until we were 35. She spent that first 15 years of our marriage just being mom.
Yeah.
I was gone. I was working. I was playing music. I was being a sound engineer. I worked crazy jobs. I did door-to-door sales. I worked at a Levi jeans store in the French Quarter. I drove an ice cream truck. I worked as a parts guy at a forklift place, and I didn't even know how to drive a forklift. I just worked whatever job I could, 9 to 5, so that I could play gigs at night and go out and do side work after that. And I was just gone all the time, and she raised all the kids. Yeah. So the reason that our big kids are good people is my wife.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
She was doing the work while I was doing the other work.
Yeah. What did you learn from doing all those like side things just to kind of get by so you could play music? Was it pretty much like, I don't want to do any of this stuff?
From a very young age, I always felt like I needed to do whatever I needed to do day by day to just get as far. Like, I look at it as like a board game. Yeah. How many times can I roll the dice so that I can get as far ahead around the board at the end of the day? And so that was the first 20 years of my adult life, was just pushing. Like, I call every day you wake up, you just turn the faucet on all the way and let the water flow and just try to get as much done as possible. And admittedly, in my later years, I'm so old now, I'm 46, but I have 6 kids, and the business is doing better than it ever has before. Yeah. Partially in thanks to the TV show and just our perseverance. So now I lay back a little bit, I'll take a day off to hang out with it. We have the 4 adult children, Zoe, Miles, Birdie, and Ozzy. They're 26, 24, 20, and 19, but we have 2 little girls. Okay. Dharma and Tashi are 6 and 4. Okay. And so when my big kids were that age, I was gone. Yeah. I was working. I was on the road playing music. I missed all the bedtime, the bath time, all the book reading. Yeah. So now I really, like, every night I get to sleep in my own bed. I'm at home. We still work our butts off, don't get me wrong. It's just a different kind of work your butts off. And it's kind of interesting in the age we live in. I wake up in the morning, I get up like 7:38, and I'm automatically on my phone doing emails and texting clients. And like, even though I'm sitting there in my underwear drinking coffee, getting ready to take a shower, I'm still working, right? And so that's the benefit, or
the curse,
right? And so my one rule is by 6 o'clock every night, I put my phone down. Yeah. And, like I do bath time with the girls and put them to bed and just try to enjoy that time. So really, I guess the focus is just trying to balance everything. Yeah. I spent so much time just turning that faucet on all the way and putting the pedal to the metal and driving as hard as I could all day, that now I just kind of like cruise a little bit,
Yeah. So at what age are you think you're going to get them into like starting? Have they already started like coming to the shop? Your youngest,
the little ones? Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's a little anvil right there. Dharma and Tashi, 2 days a week after school, they get dropped off here from their carpool, and they do cold forging. Like obviously we're not going to put a hot piece in their hand. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff with non-ferrous material, copper and brass, that you can do cold, and stamping and just really kind of getting a feel for the tools. Yeah. And so I'm super excited to see, like I said, Birdie and Ozzy have been doing this since they were 8 and 9. Dharma and Tashi, they were exposed even younger. Right. And, even cooler that they're females. And like, we don't draw any of those kind of lines here. It's like, you can do whatever you want to do. Like I said, Zoe's off right now running a shop in Rhode Island. And she's killing it. And as much as we miss her, not only familial, but in the shop,
right?
Like she's out there doing it. So we just want to. So I think we got like 4.5 months left.
Okay.
5 months. So we're waiting for Zoe to come back, especially her sisters and my mom. They miss her a lot.
Yeah, I guess the crazy thing about that is, if they're starting so young, can you imagine what they're going to do in like 10 years or what they're going to be able to do with this? That's pretty amazing, like what they're going to be able to create.
Yeah, I started when I was 19 and I was terrible for the first 8 years of my blacksmithing career.
Is it, what is terrible? Because is it like a very steep learning curve eventually, or it's just frustrating?
I think I was terrible. Like my work was not good.
Okay.
People who loved me loved my work because they loved me, and they're like, "Oh, hey, he made this." So,
yeah.
I don't know what it is, but so I think like the real turning point is when I've said it a couple times now. When you dive into the deep end, man. Yeah. And I always like to say that I dove into the deep end holding onto an anvil. And so I had to work really, really hard to get to where I am. And, it's fun. The kids, like, they're just like, they're in it, right?
Yeah.
Ozzy said something to me today. I was like, why do you keep piling up all your, I'm not going to use the word. Yeah. Why do you keep piling up all your work pieces in my area? Yeah. And smart ass that he's like, because no work happens over there. And I just wanted to I had about 15 retorts that I just bit my tongue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
Okay.
I know where you live.
yeah, exactly. So with the couples classes and like teaching other people as well, is that just a cool experience for you to be able to, not only your kids, but like people in the community or people coming from foreign countries? And I've had people coming from as far as 8 or 10 hours away to take the class. Wow.
Because there's not a lot of blacksmithing schools in the States or in the world, really. So I think probably my favorite day of the week is Saturday.
Yeah.
Because I get to teach people, and you get some people are there and they're like, my wife made me come here.
Yeah.
My husband made me come here for this couple's sake. And then there's the people who really, and I gotta attribute a lot of it to the TV shows about blacksmithing, Forged in Fire. Although I'm not a bladesmith and I don't have anything to do with knives, it has really introduced the world to blacksmithing in a modern day setting. And really it was how we wound up getting our show, and our show was on right after Forged in Fire. Although I think a lot of people don't really watch TV anymore. They just
stream it. Yeah.
So they never even found out that we were. Anyways, there's this renewed interest in these crafts, and
it's a good time to be in it then, for sure.
Is.
Yeah.
And of course we have a little bit of more, we draw a little more water because we did this TV show and more people know who we are, and we have figured out how to capitalize on that. And the great thing about the School of Iron is not only is it good for us financially, but it's great for the community.
Yeah.
I have not had one person that has come and taken this class and had an ill word to say. Everybody has fun.
Yeah.
Even the people that have a really hard time and they're like, oh, my arm hurts. They're like, this was so much fun. And, I might not do it again because I don't have that. But then there's the people that come back 3, 4, or 5 times. I've had a couple of people over the last couple of weeks. They're like, oh yeah, I just took this class, a month ago. I was like, I thought you looked familiar.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, we have other classes, right? Because we actually are offering 7 or 8 classes right now.
Okay.
So if you take the very beginner class and you're like, oh yeah, this is for me, we got more for you.
Yeah, and I was going to ask that based on Forged in Fire, are there different niches of blacksmithing? Are there different people specialize in different stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the bladesmiths. There's guys that just make knives.
Could you do that still, or are you...
I could make a knife. I don't make knives because there's so many guys making knives.
Yeah.
But it was never really of interest to me.
Okay.
I was drawn to ironwork because of the beautiful forms and these, the graceful flow.
Yeah.
of the steel, and for me, like, I carry a knife.
Yeah.
You know, I get the usefulness of a knife, but it's just never my thing. And I try to leave that to the guys that are really good at it. I've got a lot of friends that are guys that were on Forged in Fire.
Yeah.
And guys that have been on PBS, and like these guys that are really truly masters at it, and I don't want to step on their toes.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the other like kinds, I guess, or types?
So, you know, there's bladesmithing, and then there's guys that only make tools. There's guys that make hammers or hatchets or tools specific to blacksmithing, tongs or different, you know, forming tools. I think probably, and then there's like crafty kind of people that make little bottle openers or hooks or, you know, we call them smalls, you know, $5 to $10 to $20 items. But I think probably the largest niche is architectural blacksmiths, you know, railings and balconies and gates and fences and all that kind of stuff. While the call isn't quite what it was 100 years ago, you know, when there was all these people building great big mansions, there's still a big call for, you need a railing, you know?
Yeah.
Like grandma needs to get up the stairs.
Right.
And as opposed to putting in some plumbing pipe railing that is ugly, you know, we can make something really beautiful that will be strong and do the job.
Yeah, I think just it's crazy how much stuff can be made like at a blacksmith, like stuff you wouldn't even necessarily.
We can make anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So the blacksmith's mantra, which is actually printed on my arm.
Oh yeah.
By hammer in hand, all arts do stand.
Yeah.
And what that means is without the blacksmith, you know, and we're talking historically before Industrial Revolution, before the hardware store was an option.
Yeah.
If you were, the blacksmith made all the tools for the woodworker, the stone carver, the butcher, the baker, the luthier, the candlestick maker, everybody went to the blacksmith for their tools. You know, that's why when you see a, you know, kind of a Wild West movie and they're building a town, what's the first thing they build?
Yeah, blacksmith.
The blacksmith shop, because he's going to make all the nails and all the tools to build the rest of the town.
Yeah.
So the blacksmith shop was always the center of the community.
Yeah.
It's where the men met to, you know, have their talks about whatever's going on in the town. I mean, the blacksmith was the dentist before there were dentists. The blacksmith was usually ordained, and you could get married at the blacksmith shop. Legal proceedings, notary, you know, like he was usually a notary, and they would just... It was just kind of like the center of the universe. Yeah. And as the world moved away from one-off things being made one at a time, to assembly line production and going to buy your tools at the hardware store or whatever, it kind of left. But, you know, we're still here. We're still doing the same thing. I have people every day that come in and ask me to make a tool or fix their tool or you know, fix their patio furniture, or this piece on their truck broke, or like, we're still a mainstay of the community.
Yeah. Is that a different kind of thought process, going through like a repair rather than creating something from scratch?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're just kind of looking at a system that was working, and it's very simple to figure out what you have to do to make it work again. Yeah. So you just kind of stick it back in place. And the great thing about, you know, the 20th century is we have this great thing called the welder, where we can just put metal together and zap it. And boom, it's strong again, you know? Yeah, yeah. What were people doing before the welder? Well, there's actually 5 different types of joinery when it comes to ironwork. And the first would be what they called fire welding or forge welding. And that would be where you heated up 2 pieces in the fire and you literally beat them together. Oh, okay. And then we have a collar, where you take 2 pieces and you put a collar around it hot. Okay. And then as it cools, it holds it together. There's mortise and tenon joinery, where this flat guy would have a hole punched through. And then this guy would have a little tenon run out on the end, and then he would peen it over like a rivet. Oh, okay. Which we've actually been doing a lot of mortise and tenon stuff around here, because it's a really cool look, and people, it's very rustic, but it just has this kind of, there's something about it that people really like. And then rivets, you know, like we look at all the bridges around town, all the railroad bridges, they're all steel plate with holes that had rivets run through that were peened over. And that's really what's still holding a good bit of America together, is these rivets that are 120 plus years old, you know? Right, yeah. And then mechanical, nut and bolt. Okay. You can hold stuff together with nut and bolt. So that's before the welder. That's how they did all of the joinery And now a lot of it's just done by a welder, because if you're good at it, you can really hide a weld and you don't have to see a big boogery weld.
Yeah. So just where can people find everything? Like, where can people sign up for classes? Where can people contact you at?
Well, of course, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
First is www.milwaukeeblacksmith.com.
Okay.
Just for your general needs.
You can sign up for classes on there.
Well,
stuff, right?
if you go to mkeschoolofiron.com, that's for our classes. Of course, Facebook, Instagram, all of that.
Yeah, if you search them, you'll find them.
Right. My wife is the social media maven, and she makes sure that we're out there everywhere. But you guys come and see us. The classes are a lot of fun. We have the public classes as well as private. Like if you have a birthday party, a bachelor party, bachelorette, graduation, whatever.
Yeah.
We can do a private party here, which is a little more fun, then you guys can kind of hang out and chill out at your own pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, the school is a lot of fun, and the goal is for us to just make sure that this craft isn't lost in the 21st.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job. I mean, even just walking through here, I was just like, I don't know how it's possible sometimes. So I'm going to have to take a class to see.
Yeah, you should, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, some days I don't know how it's possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me, Sam. Cheers.